My name is Lauren Stauffer, and I'm going to be analyzing a PowerPoint that I created for my global cuisine class called US Regional Cuisine. And we're studying the South. And so this PowerPoint is actually pretty accessible for students. After going through the guidelines, through the accessibility handbook, I found that it was pretty accessible for students. So first of all, when I look at the first component of outline view, and if I go here to outline view, you will see that each one has a title and then has the rest of the font and the statements on it. So each one does have a title and has the information all there for the students. So all text does appear on each of the slides. If I go back to our normal view, I did use a template here. I used actually a blank template when I created this. So it does have, as far as colors, it has the white background with the black font, which does create a good contrast for all visual students. When I look at the reading order, so if I click here, slide, and then I click a tab, it starts, of course. Let's just go down to the next one. Let's see, tab. Whoops. It does start, every single slide does start with the very first heading, and then it goes into the bullet point lists. So this actual PowerPoint is used also that students do like a little web quest. So these are actually wind up being the answers. They're numbered, number one, and the answer is number two. So we kind of go through it after they've already created and answered the questions. Then we go through it together, and I teach them. So when we get to the clip art, you will see right here, if I click on the picture over here, it'll tell you exactly what they are in the description in the alt text. And that's for every picture that is on the PowerPoint. For lists, so I do have bulleted lists. Every statement, of course, the heading is all numbered, and then we have the bulleted lists throughout the presentation. When it comes to links, I do not have any links in this presentation. However, I do in some other presentations. So that's something I have to consider, is to make sure that they're able to get to the actual destination with those links. But in this PowerPoint, there are none. Also, there are no tables in this PowerPoint presentation. So there's no tables that they have to look at. As far as videos and audio, I probably could make an audio recording of this for online learners and do like a screen share where they can listen to me speak, and that would be beneficial for our audio learners. As far as videos, there are no videos in this presentation either. So looking at the checklist, though, I do feel like it's pretty accessible. I think that it would be wise for me to also, though, include a screencast where my voice will be heard, so that those students who are auditory learners could definitely follow along. I could also add in some video links. I do have some for Mardi Gras, so I could, of course, add those to the end, or even show some demonstrations of some of these foods that are listed here. Moving on to the next piece I'm going to share. The next piece I'm going to share is a Word document. So in my global cuisine class, we obviously do a lot of recipes. So I wanted to check out some of my recipes and how accessible they are for students. So the first thing I noticed is headings. I did go to look at the headings. This is a heading 1. So it is used, they say to only use it once. So it is, of course, the very first heading they will see, which is the title of the recipe best chili recipe. When I look at the picture, here is a picture that is part of uh, obviously a description of chili, and then there's the description word for alt text. And this is an online picture. It is a Creative Commons picture, and it does have the source at the bottom as well. As far as directions, so when you have a recipe, you always have measurements. Um, I could not really find anything on accessibility with the fractions and the measurements that's listed here. What I do know as far as the list, all my directions are always in steps. So I break it down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It just makes it easier for students rather than having a paragraph down here of descriptions. Over time, you realize that students don't do well with that. They do better with here's step 1, here's step 2. And that's easier for them to follow directions. So I do have those numbered. There are no links in this recipe unless you want to click on the hyperlink, which would be for the photo, just for the source of where it came from. And then we have the tables. There are no tables in a recipe, at least not for this one. Sometimes you get nutritional information, but this one does not have that. So there's no tables used. And the color, of course, is white background and then black font the whole way through. So there's a sufficient color contrast between the white and the black. And then last but not least, there are no forms here. So we don't have to worry about any forms with this recipe. So overall, I think this recipe is very accessible for students. The only question I have is, of course, regarding the measurements over here. I'm not sure exactly how fractions and stuff work with accessibility. From what I could find, it seemed like it was what I have is accessible. But again, that would be one thing I'd want to find a little more information about. The numbered lists are present there. As I said, color contrast, the description of the photo is there. So I think it does cover all of the components of an accessible Word document. Thank you for joining me.